My beautiful people. Soon as I saw this title,
every 2 weeks.
soon as I saw the title, I start pressing record. I said, "There's no way she hunted down 2 men and killed them. Let's tune in and see what happens."
11th, 2022. 21-year-old Saqib Hussain and Mohammed Hashim Ijazuddin are captured on surveillance camera footage entering the Tesco supermarket in the Hamilton area of Leicester, England. The boys have just made a rough 60-mile trip from Banbury in Oxfordshire to Leicester in order to collect £3,000 from a 46-year-old woman by the name of Ansreen Bakari. However, ladies and gentlemen, the money would never be handed over. Instead, a rough 10-mile pursuit by two separate cars would be underway. The result of the 100 miles per hour chase would sadly leave both young men dead after one of the pursuing cars rammed into the car carrying the boys. Ultimately, their car would spin out, flip, and fly into a central reservation. It was cut into two after hitting a tree. Come with me then as we take a deep dive into this complex police investigation. On the 15th of November 2019,
No, they said the car was split in two, y'all.
then 20-year-old Mahek Bakari, aka Maybe Vlogs, posted her first TikTok video alongside her mother Ansreen. Over the following months, Mahek decided this was where she wanted her life to go. She wanted to be TikTok's next biggest star. And to be fair, although we've said that about many other influencers in the past, she was actually on the way to becoming huge on the platform. In fact, she had started to gain that much traction on her dance, makeup, and daily life videos that she decided to drop out of her Manchester University course to put all of her effort into not just TikTok, but rather YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat as well. We were quite proud because I wasn't allowed to go to university and I wanted my daughter to go. She wanted to be more on Instagram as an influencer and on TikTok. We weren't disappointed. Ansreen Bakari, Mahek's mother, was supportive throughout her daughter's social media career. So much in fact that she decided to adopt the role of a manager, although that would never be official. Ansreen's early life consisted of humble beginnings. She had immigrated to Stoke-on-Trent in the United Kingdom from Pakistan as a baby. She would go on to live in the city for her whole life. I had dreams of becoming an air hostess, but my parents were quite strict, so I was never allowed to go to college to study to become one. Instead, Ansreen found employment working at a local factory when she graduated from secondary school. Soon after, she found herself working as a delivery driver for a pharmacy. Over the course of her 8-year tenure at the pharmacy, the owners decided they wanted to give her a promotion, so they paid for her to do a course so she could handle prescriptions for patients. It wasn't all happy days at the company though, and towards the end of that 8-year period, a dispute broke out about holiday entitlement. That dispute resulted in Ansreen parting ways with the pharmacy. She wouldn't be out of employment for long though. Given her experience and qualifications, she was able to find employment at a local Superdrug store only months later. She worked there until late 2019. Ansreen Bakari was able to find employment with the Department of Work and Pensions doing debt management months after leaving Superdrug. The job allowed her to work from home as the coronavirus pandemic was fully underway. However, once Mahek's social media career had begun to blossom, she ditched her job to basically become her manager. Mahek started to post on TikTok and Instagram. Clothing companies started to approach her when she started to gain a following. She had to wear clothes and tag the brand. Her social media career led to a lot of travel. I went with her so she wasn't alone. If she was alone, there was time limits, so she had to come back. Her Instagram was gaining a huge following, and she was getting a lot of promotions. I would stay up late and go with her. Sometimes the job involved both of us staying overnight in hotels. We travelled to London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Bradford. Mahek's father encouraged me to travel with her. He knew that she could trust me and I would be there to take care of her. My life before Mahek's social media career was fairly normal. I'd cook, clean and go to work throughout the week. However, when she took social media more seriously, I began to go out on the weekends with her. It was exciting. We were out and about, meeting people and stuff. And it would be this newfound excitement, this new life that happened to land at Ansreen's feet, that would be the catalyst to the crash that would ultimately take place on February 11th, 2022. At some point in early 2020, Ansreen and Mahek had been with Ansreen's nieces, Mahek's cousins. They posted on TikTok and decided to engage with other young people on social media. After all, the national lockdown was fully underway by this point, so it's to no surprise that they opted to use this method to connect with new people. The app of choice for the girls was Azar, a live video app similar to Omegle, but more preference settings can be chosen in order to find someone who you potentially could spark a friendship or relationship with. Enters a then 18-year-old Saqib Hussain. Not much is known about Saqib's initial interactions with the girls, other than Ansreen's niece explaining to him that Mahek was a TikToker who by that point had a couple semi-viral videos and that her mum was present with them. Saqib and Ansreen shared a "hi, how are you?" but that was it. Nothing else really came from it. I found him attractive, but I didn't expect to hear from him ever again. 2 days later though, Saqib had followed Mahek on Instagram, went through her follow list and found Ansreen. He sent a DM. "Hey, do you remember me?" No I don't. Ansreen asked Mahek if she recognised him. She did. She remembered him from Azar. The light bulb went off in Ansreen's head. We started talking from there. We were chatting every day, so we exchanged numbers. After we exchanged numbers, he would call every day. It would be 5 times. I didn't think it was strange in the beginning. To cut a long story short, Ansreen and Saqib had an affair behind her husband's back between early 2020 through to December 2021. We know of at least 11 occasions where they were present together, at parties, events, shisha lounges and restaurants. On at least 2 occasions, they took their romance the full way at hotels in London. Over the course of their affair, Saqib showered Ansreen with gifts, totaling roughly £3,000. An Apple Watch, shoes, clothes, meals and makeup were just some of the items he had purchased for her. Ansreen claimed that she never asked nor wanted the gifts, but accepted them anyway. Saqib was smitten. He confessed to friends and family that although he knew she had a husband and children, he was deeply in love with her. She, on the other hand, didn't necessarily feel the same way. "I just made the biggest mistake. I was very ashamed and embarrassed." It was clear that the lifestyle had gone to Ansreen's head. She felt young again. Remember, only months before the two began speaking, Ansreen, in her own words, lived a normal life. Saqib played a role in the excitement that she had described. On the 10th of December 2021, Ansreen and Saqib would meet up at a hotel in London. There isn't in-depth details about what took place during this face-to-face, other than Ansreen explaining that she had taken things too far, but appreciated the time they had spent together. Nothing happened while we were at the hotel, apart from speaking with each other. I wanted to end it, but he wanted to continue. He wasn't listening at all. Ansreen had finally ended things. In the days after Ansreen broke things off, Saqib begged her not to end it and reconsider her position. He was heartbroken. She obviously didn't want the relationship anymore, but Saqib just couldn't take that for an answer. He couldn't move on with his life like Ansreen had asked him to. Messages flooded through, hundreds of calls were made. If I was ignoring him, if my daughter was on TikTok Live, someone would make a fake account and say, "Tell your mum to call me." I was getting tired. I didn't want to talk with him anymore, and so I blocked him. I told Mahek I've had enough. I couldn't take it anymore. Then came January of 2022. Saqib had felt powerless. There was nothing he could do to get his relationship back with Ansreen. No matter how much he pleaded, how much he begged, Ansreen just didn't want anything to do with him anymore. In January of 2022 then, Saqib decided to take a different approach. This approach got Ansreen's attention. Blackmail. Over the course of the first 5 weeks of 2022, Saqib Hussain came up with a blackmail scheme in where he threatened to share nude images and videos of Ansreen and expose their relationship to not only Ansreen's husband and her son, but rather social media as well. to share nude images and videos of Ansreen and expose their relationship to not only Ansreen's husband and her son, but rather social media as well. The revelation of the affair would ruin Ansreen's marriage and damage her reputation. It would also impact Mahek's relationship with her father and would cause damage to Mahek's online influence. Ansreen was all ears. "You dumb bitch. I'll send your son nude pictures of you. I'll ruin it. I don't give a shit. When I'm mad, I'm mad. I have nothing to lose. I'll send videos to your whole family. I'll tell your husband everything. You know what I'm capable of. I'm going to send your son one nude of you first. Your son's going to see them videos now of us in the hotel, okay? Don't make me look everything up. Don't say I didn't tell you. I'm giving you a last chance. I'll send now. Your son's going to see them videos and pics. Are you going to call, or shall I make your husband mad?" Although these threatening messages had been sent, nothing ever came of it. Saqib was just trying his hardest to somehow get Ansreen's attention. An example, Saqib would threaten Ansreen in a message, then as the conversation developed, he would beg to meet her face to face in an attempt to get back together. The blackmail scheme was no secret. Well, at least to Mahek anyway. She knew exactly what was going on. Once the threatening messages came Ansreen's way, Mahek had this to say to Saqib: "You little narcissistic bastard. I know what game you're playing. You'll get the message soon. You'll see movement soon. This year, you'll be gone." She then sent this to her mother: "I'll soon get him jumped by guys, and he won't know what day it is." By early February of 2022, Ansreen Bakari had enough of the threats and attempted to turn the tables. She wanted to be in control of the situation. She threatened to go to the police and tell them about the blackmail scheme, but for whatever reason, she never ended up going to the authorities. However, a solution to the problem was about to emerge. You see, Saqib demanded that Ansreen cough up the money he spent on her during the relationship, roughly £3,000, and after that, he would leave her alone. His plan was to fly out to Pakistan. At first, Ansreen was reluctant to do so. After all, Saqib could collect the money, keep the images and videos, and then continue with the blackmail. Eventually though, she would agree. On the 8th of February 2022, 28-year-old Rekan Karwan reached out to Saqib Hussain. He was acting on behalf of the Bakaris when the topic of money entered the conversation. Mahek and Ansreen had known Rekan for a few years leading up to this point. He was also a content creator from Leicester who had collabed previously with the pair. It was clear that they had a well-established relationship because they approached him to ask him to speak with Saqib about the money. On the day in question, 2 phone calls were made, lasting roughly 10 minutes between Rekan and Saqib. Although it isn't clear what the contents of the conversation were, it's been suggested that it was about the £3,000. More specifically, Saqib needing to provide proof that he had spent this £3,000. On the following day, the 9th, Saqib was told that he'd have to meet Rekan in Leicester to retrieve the money from him. Saqib's sister overheard that conversation and spoke with him about it. She feared that he may be set up. Saqib had his heart set on the money though. He wanted to clear his head and use the funds to fly out to Pakistan. Taking his sister's advice, Saqib messaged Rekan and told him that the money needed to be sent to his bank over the next day or so. The money was never deposited. On the evening of the 10th, frustrated, Saqib messaged Mahek, threatening to turn up at Ansreen's home in Stoke to reveal all. Only 30 minutes after that message was sent, Mahek would tell Saqib that if he wanted the money, he would have to travel to Loughborough to collect it from her and her mother. Loughborough, for those of you who aren't aware, sits just outside of Leicester. Although Loughborough had been chosen originally, Leicester was the final meeting point. Saqib was more than happy to take the trip, but there was just one issue: he didn't drive. So he decided to ask friends to see if they could give him a lift from his home in Banbury, Oxfordshire to Leicester. One said he couldn't because he needed to get home and didn't have any house keys, so he'd be locked out. Another said he had to go to Middlesbrough the following day. Enters Mohammed Hashim Ijazuddin. Mohammed had been at home with family when he got the call to see if he could take Saqib to Leicester. Bear in mind that although Mohammed knew this trip was to collect money, he didn't know who it was from because he had no connection whatsoever to Ansreen, Mahek or Rakan. Mohammed agreed to take the trip with Saqib, and at around 11 PM, they left out to make the rough 60-mile trip to Leicester. We don't know exactly what went down during the trip, but it more than likely consisted of a few messages between Mahek and Saqib, including where the exact meeting point was: a Tesco Superstore. When the boys arrived in Leicester, they drove to a Tesco in the Narborough Road area. They waited a while, but ultimately no one arrived. They had travelled to the wrong store. The correct one was across the city, in the Hamilton area. At 17 minutes past 1 in the morning on the 11th of February 2022, the boys were seen entering the car park of the Tesco store in Hamilton, shown by the green arrow. The red arrow hovers over a silver Audi TT. Present in the vehicle is none other than Mahek and Ansreen Bakari, Rakan Karwan and Mohammed Patel. The blue arrow hovers over a blue Seat Leon. Present in the vehicle are Race and Amir Jamal, both cousins, Natasha Akhtar, the owner of the blue Seat Leon, and Sanaf Gullah Mustafa. Let's break down how all involved are connected. Everyone in the blue Seat Leon, Race, Amir, Natasha and Sanaf, are all part of a friendship group that includes Rakan and Mohammed, who sit in the Audi TT. It should be noted though that Mohammed was one of the newer members of the group. He had known Race for a while, but had only started to socialise with the others in the few months leading up to this point. The connection between the Bakaris and this friendship group, as you know, is Rakan. But it wasn't just him. Race also knew them as well. It isn't entirely clear why the boys decided to flee from the car park, although Mohammed Patel would say that he and Rakan had been hiding in a nearby stairwell. Apparently after Saqib and Mohammed spotted them, he believed they got spooked and decided to flee. Saqib and Mohammed were now being pursued by Mahek's Audi TT and Natasha's Seat Leon. However, the girls weren't driving. Instead, Rakan got behind the wheel of the Audi whilst Race drove the Seat. After fleeing from Tesco, the boys weren't too sure if they were being chased by at least the Seat. It had been quite close behind them, so they needed to double check. Weren't too sure. Audi. Race also knew them as well. It isn't entirely clear why the boys decided to flee from the car park, although Mohammed Patel would say that he and Rakan had been hiding in a nearby stairwell. Apparently after Saqib and Mohammed spotted them, he believed they got spooked and decided to flee. Saqib and Mohammed were now being pursued by Mahek's Audi TT and Natasha's Seat Leon. However, the girls weren't driving. Instead, Rakan got behind the wheel of the Audi whilst Race drove the Seat. After fleeing from Tesco, the boys weren't too sure if they were being chased by at least the Seat. It had been quite close behind them, so they needed to double check. At some point during the pursuit, Mahek had called Saqib to tell him to stop and pull into a supermarket car park, but he refused. Once she realised he wasn't going to stop, the conversation got heated. "Watch what I do to you." The call between Mahek and Saqib would end around here, Watermead Park. Again, we don't know in-depth details about their conversation, but it was clear Saqib thought his life was in danger. "They're trying to block me in. They're trying to block me in. There's guys following me. They've got balaclavas on. They're trying to kill me. I'm going to die. I've gone past Ratcliffe College right now, and they're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me. They're crashing into my car. They're hitting the car. They're hitting the back of the car really fast. They're trying to ram us off the road. Please, I'm begging you." Oh my god. Are extracts from a phone call made by Saqib to the Leicestershire police, right after he had spoken with Mahek. He called them in fear for his life. Those 3 words, "oh my god," were followed by screaming and then a loud crashing noise. The pursuit lasted roughly 10 miles. Some of the vehicles had reached speeds of around 100 miles per hour. According to CCTV that hasn't been released to the public, it looked as if initially both the Audi TT and Seat Leon were attempting to box Mohammed's car in order to bring it to a standstill. This tactic would fail after every attempt. With the plot to slow them down failing, both cars opted for a different method, one that would put the lives of Mohammed and Saqib at even more risk. They decided to ram the vehicle. Rekan and Race had been on the phone to one another when they decided to switch up the tactics. Both were encouraging each other to continuously ram the car. When the cars passed this petrol station on the A46, Race rammed Mohammed for a final time. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in quick succession. During the first 2 rams, Mohammed's car had been hit from the back, but he still managed to keep control of the vehicle. However, when it was rammed for the 3rd time, it had been from the side towards the rear of the car. At 90 miles per hour, the blue Seat Leon would push Mohammed's Skoda down the A46 before it clipped the curb, which sent the car flying into the central reservation. The car would be split into 2. The engine would fly across the A46. Sadly, ladies and gentlemen, Saqib and Mohammed would be dead upon impact. The A46 was quiet on the morning of February 11th, 2022. There were no witnesses to the crash. All people were left with when they did eventually come across the car.
So we find out what happened. She actually, I don't know, bro. That's just crazy. I didn't talk on that reaction because y'all said I was pausing too much. So I did a reaction without pausing as much. As soon as we get to the nitty gritty, we out of there. We about to go back to back to back. And I want to make sure that I'm here for y'all, that y'all here for me, and that y'all are entertained, that we making, you know what I'm saying, good highlights, good real, entertaining stories, you understand? But I see y'all in the next video, man. Go check out those video shorts, man. They going crazy, y'all. Love it.